There's a common saying, every story has two sides. This idea, while simple, can provide storytellers with a tool that, when used properly, can result in more fleshed out characters and stories, as well as a more connected and empathetic audience. This has been explored in cinema with movies like Malificent and Cruella, exploring some of the most evil characters from a new perspective, giving us insight into their motivations, feelings, and logical reasoning, which in turn allows us as an audience to feel for them, and sometimes even see our own traits and feelings in them. This shifts the idea of a villain on its head. We are always taught that the villain is a big, bad, evil person that's irredeemable, but seeing them from a new light makes them seem more human. While we still might not agree with what they're doing, we can see why they're doing it. So what happens when you take this idea that has the audience empathizing with a villain and take it a step further? What if you make the audience fill the shoes of the villain, so that they're not only seeing the other side's view, but living it? Luckily, video games provide us with the perfect medium to do so.
Warning, this does contain spoilers for the following games, so if you haven't played any of these, enter at your own risk.
One of my favorite game series as a child, and even now if I'm being honest, is the LEGO series. Seeing my favorite franchises being brought to life as LEGO was so awesome. Being able to blow up the Death Star in LEGO Star Wars, or run away from the giant boulder in LEGO Indiana Jones is exhilarating. But one of the LEGO series' most interesting games comes from one of my favorite characters of all time, Batman. LEGO Batman tells a unique story that pulls inspiration from various movies and comics that the Batman characters have been in. The story is divided up into 3 separate stories that follow Batman facing some of his most iconic villains, like the Joker, Scarecrow, Two-Face, the Riddler, Catwoman, Harley Quinn, and many more. As you play through each story, you run into a different rogue in each chapter, ending with the leader of the story as the final chapter and Batman saving the day. However, after you finish one of these stories, something interesting happens. There's a lever that appears in the Batcave that, when pulled, transports you to Arkham Asylum and puts you in the shoes of one of the rogues. You then get to play through the same story from the villain's point of view, playing as each rogue that you took down previously. This fills in some story gaps, showing how the villains ended up where you saw them in the previous story. Since the game is geared towards all ages, the story is boiled down to rather simple terms, of the villains just wanting to steal money because they're bad. So we don't get to see any huge impact on the character development from this perspective shift. However, it does allow you to put yourself in the villain's shoes, letting you see what it's like to be them, and shows that this type of storytelling device can work in a game rather well. But they definitely barely scratch the surface with it. Another game that plays with this idea of the same story from a different perspective is Arkham City and its Catwoman DLC pack. This DLC lets you play as Catwoman during the events of Arkham City. While it's not to the extent of the LEGO Batman game, in that it only has 4 smaller segments rather than playing the whole story from a different perspective, it does help the development of Catwoman's character, and helps the audience understand her motivations better. But it definitely could have been taken further. This technique of different perspectives is used in other video games in different ways. But one of the most successful examples of this can be found in the Assassin's Creed series. In Assassin's Creed 3, the player starts off the game playing as a character named Haytham Kenway, and plays through various missions in what amounts to a good chunk of the game. What the player doesn't know at this time, if they've managed to enter the game without knowing anything about it, is that they're actually playing as a Templar, the sworn enemies of the Assassins, which is the order you've been playing as in every previous game. This is mind-blowing at first when you realize that you were fighting for the other side, and makes you question everything you've done so far in the game. It also makes the fight against Haytham later in the game all the more meaningful. However, it seems like Ubisoft was merely dipping their toes with this idea, because a few years later, they released Assassin's Creed Rogue. Assassin's Creed Rogue follows Shay Cormac, an assassin that is being mentored by Achilles, the assassin that goes on to mentor Connor in the events of Assassin's Creed 3. Throughout the beginning of the game, you play through missions similar to previous Assassin's Creed games. However, you can see that Shay has some doubts on the actions of the assassins and whether what they're doing is right. Especially when he's sent to kill a sick man that can barely walk and an older man that's defenseless. He does voice his concerns, but ends up brushing it off until he's given a mission in Albany that results in the destruction of an entire city and the death of countless innocent lives. This enrages Shay, that the assassins would needlessly put innocent lives in danger and are planning to continue to do so. After trying to stop them, the assassins turn on him, attempting to kill him, and thinking that they succeeded. However, a friendly Templar, John Monroe, sees potential in Shay and saves him and nurses him back to health, eventually asking him to join the Templars to help them stop the assassins from taking any more innocent lives. This game really embodies the concept of walking a mile in the villain's shoes, as you play as a Templar through the majority of the game. As you play, you get to hear their motivations and really start to see where they're coming from. They don't seem quite as evil as they normally are portrayed to be. And furthermore, you get to see other characters from previous games that you were allies with when you were an assassin, like Achilles, but from a different light, seeing how they can do wrong, make bad decisions, and even be a straight up bad person. It even has a mission at the end where you're tasked with killing Charles Dorian, who is the father of Arno, the main protagonist in Assassin's Creed Unity, giving you the chance to see yet another side of the story that seems so black and white at first glance. Seeing all of this really allows you to empathize with the other side, and helps the characters and story mean more as you play it. It doesn't just affect this game either, but the series as a whole. Next time you boot up another Assassin's Creed game, you might question, am I on the right side? Does the other side have a point? It can even affect your outlook on all stories as a whole, having you ask the same questions about every story-driven game you play. One of the most interesting concepts that Assassin's Creed Rogue explores from a gameplay aspect is how you have to fight against the tactics that you used on the other side. For example, your enemies, the assassins, will do the same thing that you did when you were an assassin, like hide in haystacks or try to attack you from above. This provides an interesting change because now you have to figure out how to combat those techniques, which further allows you to empathize with the other side. I know I even found myself falling for things that, when I was playing as an assassin, I asked myself, are they really falling for this? You come to realize that having to check every haystack and constantly look on rooftops can sometimes be annoying and can easily be forgotten. In gaming, a lot can be gained from exploring the other side's perspective. It can help tell more meaningful and engaging stories. It can help develop characters in a deeper way, revealing things about them that would otherwise be hidden, helping the audience to empathize with them, affecting not only the way they view the game, but everything around them. It can also provide more interesting ways to play, by allowing the players to create new strategies to fight against mechanics they know and love.
What do you think? Are there other games that use this technique in their storytelling or gameplay? Let us know down in the comments. Thank you so much for watching. If you've liked this video, go ahead and give it a thumbs up. And also, don't forget to subscribe and hit that bell icon if you want to be notified for all future videos.